We are ready.
Okay. Good morning and welcome to this rescheduled regular meeting of the Pipestone County Commissioners. We had to reschedule because of the holiday. This is Wednesday, December 26th. It is 9 o'clock. Serving the county today are Commissioners Luke Johnson, Commissioner Chris Hollingsworth, myself, Dan Wildermuth, Commissioner Bruce Koyman. Commissioner Les Nath was not able to be with us today. He had a death in the family. Also, our County Administrator, Steve Ewing, and our County HR Coordinator, Kathy Feste. If you'd all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. These meetings are recorded and broadcast then on our website as well. The first order of business then we have is to set our agenda for today. You all received a copy of the agenda in your packet. Also, there's one posted on the website. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, please delete Kyle Creer from this morning at 9:03. He is unavailable for today, and we'll take this up at a future meeting.
Okay.
And in his place, I would like to add Bill Folger, IT Coordinator, for request to purchase. And the product is called Dark Trace Security Appliance, and you have a copy of the information on your desk.
Very good. We will delete Kyle and insert Bill.
Sounds good.
With that addition, I would...
Mr. Chairman, one more thing. Forgive me. Under other business on the back page, I would request, and it was my bad, I didn't get it done when we set salaries. We need to set the per diem rates for 2019 for commissioners. So if we could add that under personnel, just below it anyway, it's not a personnel item, but set per diem rate 2019. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
For those adjustments, I would like to approve the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. Any further questions, discussions, or amendments? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
And opposed, the same. Thank you. Okay. Also in your packet then, we have the consent agenda. For this meeting, the consent agenda consists of the approval of the minutes from our special truth and taxation meeting that we had December 10th, 2018. Also, we had a December 11th, 2018. What does that consent agenda consist of, Steve?
That's our minutes from December 11th.
Our regular meeting.
Regular meeting from December 11th?
Yeah, December 11th was a regular meeting.
Yes.
Minutes, thank you. And then also, item C was our special meeting on December of 18th. That was a special meeting we had. That was a continuation of our discussion on our levy. Also, item 2, we had the approval of the auditor warrants from December 14th and also from December 21st. And the third item was the approval of the hospital warrants of $687,496.96.
Mr. Chair, move for approval.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion or questions from anybody? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And opposed, the same. Thank you. Okay, then we'll move to our 9:03 slot. Bill Folger, you are with us. You've got a presentation to make, a request. How you doing, Bill?
Good.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay, so this year we looked for security appliance for, just one other layer. We've been looking for a couple of years. It's been, okay, we're watching the perimeter this way, we're using the firewall this way, we're using these other tools. So we kind of started looking for, okay, what's this next thing going to be? We're watching, or how are we going to look at stuff is what it ended up turning into. So it kind of moved down one path quite a ways earlier this year, and that was just not working out. And through one of my colleagues' contacts, I heard about this product, and we started engaging them in July. And we've been running this demo now since August, and this is the product we want to go with. So what this does is it's a completely different way of looking at security. Instead of always building our wall taller and having our perimeter taller and taller and watching everything that's coming through the perimeter, this looks at the inside. What's everything on the inside of our network doing? And what where's this traffic going? Is it just our machines talking to each other? Is it desktops talking to servers? Is it desktops talking to printers? Is it printers talking to something outside of our network? So what this does is it allows us to look through that noise of all that traffic going on and just look at the things that are very unique, right? So what this box did the first month and a half it was here is it just watched and figured out what normal was. What is normal network traffic? once a week, this machine talks here. Every day, this talks here, this talks here. And what this has learned now is how our network behaves normally. And then we switched on, okay, watch for things that aren't normal anymore. So what this has been able to do is see any piece of malware. Somebody clicks on a bad link, and it can see where that goes and how that happens and how it tries to infect anything on our network. Our other tools do catch things, but this gives us, advanced information, and it gives us something to go on. Before we could use other tools and look at traffic, but there's so much noise. It's like, are we getting the stuff we need to see here? Where this pairs that all down to just these are the things we should look at.
Maybe Bill, if you can explain as well too, we understand, but for the public, when we talk about security here, we're talking about our computer security, our cyber security and so forth. We talk about the firewall and the perimeter fence. This is all metaphoric terms used for the cyber security.
Right. So this is internal though. This is a look
Right.
inside our network. I have this money in the budget already for this year. But we got some last minute pricing. The pricing they'd originally quoted me was double, if not 3 times what this number is. So we got a heck of a deal going here. The only catch was they want to use our brand in their advertising.
Bill, this
kind of
contract term spelled out is 36 months.
Yes.
Are we done paying then and we continue to own the system, or is this going to go on? The cost will continue.
It would continue.
We'll have to pay
Yep.
again another 3
We'll
years.
have to pay, correct. Yep. And that's how most things are. This will constantly be getting updates as we move through
Excuse me.
the years.
So after 3 years, we may pay the same for the next 3 months, 36 months, or we may have to pay more. We don't know.
Or we may have to pay more, or we may have to pay less. Yep.
And most of this cost, I assume, is in support the software support, the software updates and so forth.
Right. I suppose that's how they bill you. I'm sure a lot of it goes into the initial capital to make it happen.
Do we know at all how long this program will stay relevant? Are we going to be looking 3 years from now, it's going to say, oh, well, that's outdated, and you need a whole new one again?
I guess that's kind of an advantage of only doing 3 years at a time, is we wouldn't be locked into 5 years or.
More than likely, the requirements will be changed. 3 years from now, there'll be something else you'll have to be concerned about, so.
It very well could happen that way. Yep.
Can you talk about some of the attempts that you've caught already of people trying to infiltrate our system? I realize this is more of an internal look, but still, just to illustrate the importance of staying current with our
So
protection.
during the demo with this, we had Sean Larson here a couple times, and when he's here, we break stuff and fix stuff to upgrade stuff. So it caught him. It caught him several times because it noticed that this isn't normal behavior for your network. Why is this laptop talking to these things or doing these kind of things on your network? So that was kind of interesting. In progress kind of attempts, nefarious things, it's caught some malware that Sophos then caught after the fact, but this saw it happen, and alerted to it.
We do have a responsibility to protect all our information here, and Bill's kind of our guy we go to ask what we think we need. I'd move to approve the purchase.
Very good.
I'd rather not spend the money, obviously, but I
Right.
think it's something we have to have, so.
Absolutely.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the expenditure of the $29,988 in 3 annual payments. And again, I guess any further questions or discussion? Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I was just going to comment that Administrator Ewing and Commissioner Nath and I sat in cybersecurity up at seminar up at AMC, and the threats that counties are seeing can be very severe at times, especially the costs involved. So having this type of price to
Yeah.
prevent further costs, I think it's a good decision to make.
Talked about malware, and of course we've heard about ransomware and so forth. So yeah, there certainly is potential out there for it. So yes.
I was just curious, when it identifies an issue, is it able to then contain it in some way, or what?
It can do a couple different ways. So it can start limiting the bandwidth of something. If major amounts of data are being, moving to somewhere, some rare IP out on the internet, it can slow that down. It can slow that down to just a trickle, or it can stop it completely. But its main purpose right now is just to give us something to go on. Hey, Bill, how come this is happening? And investigate it and see what it is.
Would it detect something as benign as somebody plugging a flash drive in and downloading a lot of files or uploading a lot of files?
Depends on where they would be being uploaded to or downloaded to. If they were coming from the server, it certainly would. Yeah, off of any server. Yeah, it would notice that.
Okay. Well, very good. Any other questions? Okay, so we've got a motion and a second to approve this. All in favor, aye. Aye. And opposed, the same. Passed unanimously. And thank you for your networking with your old IT friends. That always helps to stay current.
You bet. Thanks.
Okay. We've got with us today Stacy Jorgensen, then from Southwest Health and Human Services. Stacy, if you'd come forward, please. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, like Commissioner Wildermuth said, I'm Stacy Jorgensen. I am a supervisor that is based out of Pipestone location, offices. And my direct supervisor is Cindy Nelson. She's a deputy director at Southwest Health and Human Services. And then, of course, Director Wilms is our director of Southwest. I'm here today to discuss further with you some of the discussions you had on December 11th. First of all, I just want to let you know that I truly want to let you know that we truly enjoy our space. It's a beautiful building. We are using it to its full extent, plus, and so I just wanted to let you know that. I did get a chance last week before holiday break to view the December 11th board meeting, and it was interesting to listen to. And one of the things that caught my attention was the discussion at the very end of this project discussion, in which there was multiple moments of talking about rent increases and possible lease changes and such. I just wanted to address that a moment because I feel that throughout this whole process, I've been very forthcoming with the folks that I've talked to, Commissioner Hollingsworth, Commissioner Nass, Commissioner Wildermuth, and Administrator Ewing, that this isn't a project that we're interested in raising rent or increasing lease agreements over. And I just kind of wanted to put that out there first, if that's going to be a deciding factor. I have a lot to discuss with you and want to, but I wanted to make sure that you were very aware of that, because I believe that every conversation I've had with everyone, I've mentioned that process. Including Director Wilms and my direct supervisor, Cindy Nelson. and our space committee. We've had multiple conversations with our space committee. So some of the history of this conversation started this summer. We were talking about what we could do. Recently, we've had a storage area in the middle of the building that has housed many paper records. And in that, with those all becoming electronically stored, we now have this space. And it's a space that right now we're underutilizing. It is part of our space. We pay rent for that part too. But we're not able to use it right now because there's only 3 plugins in the whole space. And so we're kind of hodgepodging some things together, and occasionally somebody might sit in there for a couple of hours and use the electric plug-in, but there's really no computer plug-ins. There's one phone in the big space that can be utilized. So just going back to history, so this summer discussion I had with Mr. Drew, and just talking to him about what we could possibly do with that space, how we could utilize it to its fullest. You know, it seems like we're starting to, people are interested in coming and using our location. So we want to use all that we've got. And from there, it grew to, so the main conversation was about, could we get some more electrical in that room? Could we get some computer plug-ins in that room? Can we get a couple of phone plug-ins in that room? How can we use that space? And, you know, do we look at partitions? Do we partition parts of that room off? And Mr. Drew asked, well, what would you do with a wall? I was like, well, here's what we do with a wall in that space. And from there, it grew. Mr. Drew talked to Administrator Ewing and discussed, and a meeting was put together with the property committee. And on October 22nd, the property committee of Administrator Ewing, Commissioner Nath, and Commissioner Hollingsworth came out and had a tour, and we talked, and we talked about many things. We talked about how we could utilize the full space, because we took a whole complete tour around. You know, this started out with a conversation over that space area, but in the process, when I was talking with the property committee, one of the things that became very clear to me is was the big glass windows up front. It's quite a it's very open. Administrator Ewing in the last board meeting had talked about that it's lower because it is handicap accessible. You can wheel a chair up there, and it's right there available to you. But that also causes some concerns in that 2 years ago when we had our Alice training, the alleged perpetrator came through the door and walked right over the counter and with no effort. So our front staff are very vulnerable. And of course they're the face of our agency. They're the first people you're going to meet. But it's pretty scary when somebody can take one step and walk right up onto the counter and right over and into the office. And we've had times when we've had folks that are leaning into the office space over the counter through the window, and you know, 1/3 of their body is through the window. So that was that's kind of the first item of discussion, is how do we make that a safer option for our frontline staff, for the people that come up front. Our financial workers come up front to that window and talk with folks, and such as that. So that's kind of #1 priority that we're looking at this point. Then the second priority was looking at that storage space, basically, and how can we make that usable and accessible to staff, and with all the things that they need, the computer, a phone, how do we make that a space that's usable? There was many discussions on October 22nd. Some of them were pie in the sky, some of them were brainstorms, some of them were, you know, hey, what if we did this? And what if we did this? And so, so I think that was part of your conversation on December 11th board meeting, were some of those add-ons or things that we were talking about and throwing out there for our meeting. I do believe my focus is on that storage space. Commissioner Nath also found another space that we currently use as a storage space at the very back of the building that we're currently use as a printer, and there are some 4-door filing cabinets back there that will be going away as we will be finishing out the electronic records scanning in. Those were our top priorities in the discussion. And with that discussion, after our tour, I think maybe the property committee had a discussion further in the front room, in the conference room that I was not privy to, so I left at that point so you guys could have further discussion. I'm not sure where that discussion went from there, but so I also wanted to just let you know that I did have a meeting with our office staff November 6th about these discussions, so they kind of had a clue as to why are people walking through our building? What's happening here? So they are aware, as much as I could give them on November 6th, which wasn't a whole lot, but that these discussions were happening. December 17th, Commissioner Wildermuth and I walked through the building again and had some discussions and talked about what would we look at? What would we pare this down to be? What is our ask at this point? So, and I believe I just kind of shared that ask with you, and then I was able to watch the video, and so that's kind of where all this was born out of. So, just to clarify. Southwest Health and Human Services doesn't have any money to put towards this. The ask would be for help with putting some protective glass or process in front, and then looking at how we can make that storage room more usable. We have a plan A, which is the wall, building a wall, putting a door in, and adding electrical, computer, phone to that area. It would be great if we could do that with that back storage office or room also. So that's prime. That would be the plan A. Plan B, we can always look at partitions. I would say we still need the electrical, we still need the phone, we still need the computer wiring to happen. Even with a partition system. And Plan C is always at your discretion to do nothing. So, but we would like to use all the available space we have in some capacity for space for our staff to work in.
Okay, very good.
Lots of questions.
Very good. And I certainly appreciate you coming today, because yes, we had questions when this was first presented to us, because other than the building committee, the rest of us had not been involved in those first initial discussions. And it was presented to us that, well, we need to approve $4,000 for an architect for a $30,000 project. And we're still a little bit uncertain of where we're at with our reimbursement from Southwest Health and Human Services, because with the other agencies, and that's completely separate from yours, I understand that. So those are some of the questions we had. Is we just spent $40,000, $50,000 on this 4 years ago, if I remember correctly, remodel.
I believe it looks like it was $51,000.
$51,000. And that was 4 years ago?
Which we're paying, Southwest is paying you back for.
Yep. So that's what
That
spurred the
contract,
questions.
yeah.
Certainly was no intent to say, well, no, that's good enough. No, the intent was, where are we at, what's going on, and how do we get reimbursed for this? Because again, it's the taxpayers are paying for this.
Yeah.
Questions?
Question regarding the reimbursement. I think something that we would like, just out of curiosity, is a comparison of the various counties, what they're being, charging for rent or whatever, based on their square footage that's being provided. If we could get that from the various counties involved with Southwest would be helpful, I think.
I can certainly bring that to Director Wilm's
Yeah,
attention.
that'd be great.
And I think that Commissioner Wildermuth has already had brought that forward
Yes.
to
Mhm.
Director.
Yep.
Wilms.
In fact, it's a question that we've asked. I wish that Les was able to be here today. It's questions that we've asked over the last number of years, going back to when we had some of our first realization of some of the finance problems that we're having a year ago. Because at that time, I know it was floated the idea, well, maybe we just won't charge rent for a couple months. We're saying, well, how does that make sense? Because there's a different rate in each of the 6 counties that make up Southwest. So this is an ongoing discussion, yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, as far as, some of the other needs, adding some receptacles, adding some computer ports. We certainly don't need an architect nor a $30,000 building project to do that. That's something you work with your contractors on.
Yeah, I do not, it was never my intent in my initial discussion with Mr. Drew that this be a huge project that would cost thousands and thousands of dollars.
Right.
I think you and I had this conversation that my background is when we ask for someone to help us with our personal project, or I have a personal project, I want to be helping with it or whatever, but I wasn't planning on it to be a $30,000 project. That was never my intent for that to occur.
I can certainly see if there's concerns about security, those should be addressed as soon as possible, but this other stuff, we might have to look at a little more and see what's going on there.
Sure.
If we can do some new outlets and some computer hookups and maybe some partitions in the storage area, would that be workable? I mean, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud here, but
And that kind of echoes what Stacy said, that there's a range of things that we can do here. Yes.
partitions
Certainly.
are easy to move and reconfigure later if there's something changes or you need more or less staff. I've never talked to anybody in my 6 years as a commissioner that says, gee, we should spend more money on welfare. Everybody's totally opposite that I've ever talked to, and I'm in that group. I'd like to see that budget go down a little bit every year rather than just keep growing and growing and growing into a big, and I think we don't have any choice at sometimes in these things, but it's costing the taxpayers a fortune, all this, with these welfare programs. That's my biggest concern, but.
Chris, you have a question?
Yeah, I thought maybe Stacy could address the question that I know some of the other commissioners had on why the space is needed right now.
So, right now we have, 2 things are happening. We have, in all 6 of our locations, and again, trying to be a little safer process, and also looking at data privacy. We're looking at all of our locations having private interview rooms, so that we are not bringing people all the way back around the back part of the building. We're not bringing people back two offices at the back there where they can overhear a conversation, because we do talk to each other. We have to. It's part of what we, tough cases happen, and we have to figure out how that's going to work. Somebody may be in somebody's office. All of a sudden, you're seeing people in somebody's office. Hey, I saw that person in that office. We don't want that happening. So we want to make sure it's very private, that we're protecting people's data, privacy, and we want to make sure that we're keeping our staff safe also, as much as we can. Can we have everything outside of the locked doors? Not at this point. But if we can keep people closer to those doors and try to figure out ways to have them not coming back around to all the different office areas, that's what we're looking at in all 6 locations. Some are better equipped for that option than others, but I think it will help us in the long run with safety and data privacy. The other thing is, we do have some pro plan folks. The board approved for those phased retirement option folks that are working part-time. You're able to use their great knowledge. Those folks have been here with us for a long time, and we want to use their knowledge and be able to share that knowledge with anybody new coming in. They're great staff, and we're looking at, as they're replaced with a full-time person, we still need a place for those pro plan folks that are working part-time, like 20 hours a week, I believe, to have a place to land. Now, most of that, we will have them bunking up together. They will share an office area, but they still need that area to land in. And in our particular situation, we have one person coming in from telecommuting, so she doesn't have an office to go to once she comes back in here in January, and so she and her counterpart will be sharing an office. So we're trying to figure out how to configure that and allow for new staff coming in for their replacements as they're learning their craft and their trade.
Very good. How do we want to proceed with this then? Personally, I feel that we're missing some information at this point to be able to make an informed decision going forward. I don't want to kick the can down the road, but I would certainly like to ask some more questions and go forward. I know with my discussions with Beth as well too, we talked about that front area with the sliding glass. That right now is 2 large pieces of glass that are open up, so it's an open area.
Yeah, they're thin pieces of glass.
Very thin. Well, yes. But also, because originally you talked about raising that countertop. Well, I think that's maybe not possible from my hearing. As far as ADA, we need to keep the countertop low. But that's not the question. That's so much it's that easy access to it.
Correct.
So there's a lot of different intermediary steps that we can make here between raising the countertop and putting in bulletproof glass. There's other things we can do, just maybe by changing those 2 moving pieces of glass to a solid piece of glass with a pass-through. But again, whether that's bulletproof glass or just thicker glass, I know Director Wilness as well has mentioned too that in her opinion too, you can sometimes have a false set of security with glass too. It still is a physical barrier, but not necessarily bulletproof. Case in point, your back doors. There's other access areas as well too. We certainly want to take reasonable steps to protect everybody, but yet we can't live in a bulletproof society either. So
Correct.
So I don't know, I'm looking for information from you guys as well too. Do you want to look further into this? I don't know if we're in a position to make any decisions today, do you?
Probably not make a decision, but maybe Wayne could put together a small quote on, or build something where we could have a local, or some contractor bid on it.
Exactly.
Without spending the architect fees, and I think this is something that we could handle more locally.
Yeah.
I did take the initiative to talk to Mr. Drew about where currently Pipestone County gets their glass, that type of thing. He said it was Southwest Glass in Marshall. They are willing to come out and give us a free estimate on our area at some point. I have not heard back from them with a date, but it would be a free estimate, no cost to anybody at this point, to look at what it would cost to give us, and they would design it. So they'd give us a bid plus a design for that front area.
Right.
It seemed like a good starting point.
Yeah, it
There's
does.
some other options we can look at before we go into something larger than we really need. I think that might make some sense, just to start with that.
And maybe with that bid, have a couple different options from them as well, too. Because there's a range of different things that they can do there, so we'd like to be able to see what those
Wayne's aware
costs
of
would
that,
be.
then maybe he should talk to them, get hold of them, and work something out there.
And still looking for some clarification, again, from Southwest Health and Human Services as far as where we're at with our rental agreements, where that's all going, because obviously, that's part of our joint powers agreement, is to have space and be reimbursed for that space, but we need to kind of see what's going on with that before we invest even further funds into that. And again, don't misinterpret that. We're not saying that, no, you're not going to get anything. What we're saying is we need to see what's going on here and see what the needs are and address your needs in an economical manner. Again, Chris had mentioned too, as far as putting in receptacles, things like that, local contractors can do that. We don't need an architect to know where to add a receptacle in a wall, so that's.
Right. And I guess that
Computer
would be
outlets.
the biggest ask, along with that front glass, was trying to figure out how, right now it's relatively usable, but that area is looking at that electrical, computer outlets and that type of thing.
Well, those are some steps that could be taken easily without a lot of architectural problems and all that, so I think we should look into that before we go any further. The county's got a little over, I could be wrong, but it's in excess of $1 million invested in that building and that property, and we'd like to know exactly what, we don't have to make any money on it, but we'd kind of like to be at least break even each year on our investment and have a little reserves, if we could use that term, to fund future activities there too, if there are more requirements that come down the road here. So that's why we're concerned about the revenue that it produces for the county, because of our investment is quite sizable there.
Sure, yes, yeah. Yeah, but I did look over the lease, and it does say that we are paying you back for the
Yeah,
improvements
that's
in
what we-
2015.
yeah, and we'd like to just
So we wanna
kinda
make
go over
sure
that,
that
make sure we know where
that
we
isn't
stand and
part
where
of
you
the-
stand.
You know, there was a loan there, but we are paying that back through our lease agreement as I know it, so.
Mr. Chairman, there's a copy of the 2018 rental agreement. There's 4 copies there. If I'd like to grab one, you can take a look at it. It's on, current agreement is on page 2, item number 4. Talks about the basic rent on the facility. And as you're digesting, if I can, Mr. Chairman, just make a comment.
Yes, please.
Is that this, in meeting with the building committee, and how this morphed into requiring an architect is really, it started when we were in that center section we talked about on the 11th, is putting up walls, electrical, IT, lighting, and HVAC, all would have to be moved in there. Plus, there's a IT room that needs to be secured from the rest of the building with a wall and a door so that there's access to that, because you can't just have people have access to that, is the way I understood that.
Well, that door is locked. Nobody has access to that.
But the other part of it was to have IT walk through the office and get to that. There was an issue with that too, if I remember correctly. That they wanted to keep that separate from that office area so that they could, there's an electrical panel, I believe, is what's hanging out in that room that they needed to have secured from that, is what I understood. Or
And
wished it to happen, maybe that's a better word. That
I think there was some discussion around that. I don't know that we saw a need for walls there. We just needed to, the biggest thing is that area we know we cannot use for any space. It has to be totally open. In fact, it's kind of small on here, but basically that orange square
Right.
cannot be used for any area because it has the electrical box and
Correct.
that, the door to that closet, that computer closet. So we have to keep that open in whatever gets done. So
correct?
we just know that we could just tape that off, or however, we just know that we can't have anything in that square.
That's not unique just to that one box. That's part of the National Electrical Code.
That's
Any
code.
junction box
Correct.
has to have a 36-inch working.
It just so happens that the computer closet door is right there, and we know we have to have ready access to that also. So, yeah, definitely.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything further, Steve, to
Nope,
add?
not right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess at this point, I don't know if we need to take any specific action because this isn't really listed as an action item, certainly for information as well, too. We do have action item down here, though, as far as the architect proposal. I'm not comfortable moving forward until we have more input, so I guess I would like, do we need a specific motion to table this at this point? Just
Nope,
thanks, Stacy.
It's already
And we do
tabled
thank
from
you
last meeting.
for your input on this. We'll certainly look into it, and looking forward to getting a little better handle on some of the discussions we've had a year ago as far as just how that compensation is set for the other parts of the Joint Powers Group as well, too. So,
Yep.
and that's no reflection on what we're doing here. And certainly
It's a little
understand that
outside
from
my
a safety
bailiwick.
standpoint. Yes.
Is Steve gonna tell Wayne Drew to look into this then, or?
Yep, I'll work with Wayne on it.
Okay, just so we know who's gonna move the ball toward
Yep.
his court and then get this glass thing looked at.
Yeah, take a look at the glass and see what options we've got, because
Yeah.
again, we want your personnel out there working to feel comfortable in their work environment.
Yes,
And
we
like you
certainly
said, from the Alice, the active shooter drill that we did, the Alice training,
Yeah.
that was a weak point that was illustrated there, so yes. But again, there's different steps that we can do to help with that, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
All right.
Anybody else, any questions, comments?
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy.
So can we move on then, or do we need to, we don't need to specifically table the action on the architect services, do we?
No, that was previously tabled.
Okay, good enough.
Do it again.
All right. Well, then we get to move on to something that's taken 35 years in the making. 32. Steve, would you come forward, please? We would like to recognize Steve Weitz for all the years that he's worked as our treasurer here in Pipestone County. And I guess just to kind of, in fact, not to put you on the spot, could you kind of talk about how we've made these steps to come more in line with what the other counties are doing as far as combining auditor, treasurer, just again for people that don't know the background on this, it's kind of a twofold thing. Well, as I'm rambling here, with Steve's decision after 32 years that enough is enough, we appreciate that. The personnel committee, under the direction of our county administrator, both when we had Sharon Hansen, also continue on with Steve Ewing as well too, thought, well, this might be the time to take a look at possibly combining these two positions because there are a lot of duplications and so forth. So that's kind of where that had stemmed from, and as you know, we are making that step now. So I don't think that would have been possible had it not been for your cooperation and, again, your 32 years of experience and kind of helping to guide the light here a little bit. So, Kathy, I'll turn it over to you. You got a presentation for Steve?
I don't have much of a presentation.
That's good.
I just wanted to give you this on behalf of the board and just make sure that you know how much the board appreciates you and all the good work you've done the last 32 years.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And I don't know if any of the other commissioners wanted to chime in on anything for Steve or.
Absolutely, and we'll take a formal photo op afterwards as well, too. We're not going to let you get away with that. So, you got.
It's been an enjoyable 32 years, I will say that, and it went fast. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for all your years. Oh, you much appreciated. Great. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. But I couldn't have done it without the staff that I had. They need the recognition also because those two gals up there, they are the backbone of the office also. So.
Please sit. We're not going to let you get away that early.
Oh, okay.
That easily. We've got time. We're not going to let you get away with just again, we want to express our appreciation and give you an opportunity to kind of address us, some of your high points, some of the low points over the years, and stress the high points.
Well, in all honesty, I am probably the only person in the world that can ever say I loved going to work. It just was a job that fit me well. I enjoyed working with the public, and as I said, the staff was absolutely wonderful to be able to work with. And I really haven't had that much change of staff over the years. It's been pretty consistent, which has helped me an awful lot. And it's also going to help Tyler too, because they're knowledgeable of most of it. Anything statutorily, that was my job. They don't know that much about that, but it'll come. It'll work just fine. The highlights has just been working with the public, always being kept up with the computer systems. The commissioners throughout the years, including yourselves, have been absolutely wonderful, making sure that the tax systems were the top-notch tax systems. Had a glitch in there the one time, with the Manatron system, but ever since then, everything has been great. The low point right now, driver's license system. That is just such a painful thing to work with, and the precursor, of course, was the license plates, the DVS with that part of it, and so we kind of were prepared that we were hopeful that it wasn't going to be the same debacle that is, but it continues. And
This is the new driver's license?
This is the new driver's license
So that's
system,
going to be a big...
We used to be able to do a license in 7 to 10 minutes, and now it takes anywhere from a half hour to an hour and a half. We have sat on hold for anywhere from a half hour to 4 hours with the state of Minnesota. It is getting better. They have gotten us email that we can contact to help us with those, but I can talk about that for hours. That's the low point, and it will get better. It has to get better because the state of Minnesota's insignia is on this, that it is going to work. So hopefully, it's going to be very, very nice. I made an application for an enhanced license. We're in hopes that we want to drive up to Canada this summer. I haven't gotten it yet. I made it October 23rd, so I'm kind of an example. I was the second one that did that. Our new camera system came in October 22nd, and I knew that we wanted to get this done. So we're 2 months into it, and I still haven't got that either. So it's good that it happened to me, along with everybody else, because I can say, well, I'm right there with you. Yep. So.
Back in September, I had to renew mine, and I'm still waiting for my hard copy. So probably the frustrating thing is it wasn't a surprise to any of us. We knew this was coming because, like you had mentioned, we saw it happen with the license plates.
Yep.
So it's
The state of Minnesota is a disaster with anything with registration and car titles. And I just renewed my ATV last week, and on the sticker it said it could take 6 weeks for you to get your sticker back if you send it to the state.
Yeah, it's just
Well,
it's crazy.
It doesn't make sense, with all their new computers and all that. They've got something going on up there that.
And you would think that they would have taken their lesson from that and certainly not let it happen, so that everything is just a mess. But
good.
But yeah, the rest of it, working with the public, working with you guys, working with the entire courthouse staff. We're very, very fortunate here in Pipestone County to have a good staff, a knowledgeable staff that is willing to work with everybody, and it really makes Pipestone County shine to have the good people working here that we do. So.
You'd mentioned the longevity of your staff, and that was one of the things that I had noticed as well too. It certainly is a testament to how efficiently your office runs, that you've got people that enjoy being there and working there as well too. You've got a very, very small turnover, so thank you for that leadership as well.
Yeah, Pam has been there for 26 years, and Lori will be starting 18. So, yeah, that's a long time for people to stay.
Well, thank you again.
You're welcome.
We've got some cake here. We're going to take a little short break. We have a piece of cake to commemorate this occasion.
Thank you.
And certainly appreciate that. So if you'd go ahead and pause the tape, then let's go ahead and take it's
and thank you for the peace pipe and the plaque there. It's very, very nice.
Very good. Thank you.
I was just looking to see who made this.
Yeah.
Probably one of my neighbors.
Okay, it's 9:50. Go ahead. Okay, welcome back from our recess. It is 10:05. Next item we've got on our agenda then is Tyler Reich and Joyce Schmidt. Well, they've got some disaster abatement things to present to us. You guys would come forward. Good morning and welcome. You had a good Christmas? Good.
Very relaxing.
Thank you for the extra time. That was awesome.
Yes, it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's much appreciated.
Well, if you want to discuss
The application and all that
Okay.
stuff. Yep.
So what we have before you today is Betty Kramer. She had a fire in her home just north on Highway 75 in August of 18. So she has requested an abatement, and based on the number, what she would be entitled to is, we have to make a determination that it was accidental and unintentional, which those were met, and the amount of destruction has to be at least 50%, which her house is totally gone. And then she's entitled to just the months that she was not in the home. And you don't count the month of fire, so September, October, November, December, so that's 4 months for the taxes payable in 18, right, Diana? 18.
Correct. Yep.
And then 19, and we'll probably be coming to you before on this too, but they are going to rebuild in the spring. And typically, if she wasn't going to rebuild, she's actually entitled also, if you approve, this is all subject to your approval, but the taxes payable, so it's current year taxes and the next year's taxes. And it's because we're always a year behind. That was the whole thought. So they are planning to build in the spring, so we can't come to you until we know when they're gonna be in there, so it would be maybe 4, 5, 6 months.
Prorated, basically.
Yes, so it should, I'm sure they hope to be in the new home sometime next summer or fall or whatever, so there'll be probably a request at that time when we know that they're in the home again.
And the
so this
abatement is just on the house, it's not on the property, it's not on the other buildings, it's just the value of the house.
Attached garage that was destroyed overnight, yes.
Now, will they be eligible for the 3-year program that we still have?
We
in
have
effect?
talked to them about that.
At that time, they'd have to apply for that later.
Yes.
When does that sunset, Tyler, do you remember? Isn't
For
too
the
far.
3 years, we're just getting, it's probably the end of this year. I don't know the
Doing its
exact
third year
date.
now, I think, won't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
We're going to be starting to pay out those abatements starting next year. So we're getting to be towards the end of it because it's about a 2 or 3 year process to get the value on the taxes.
Right.
So
This is for the new construction
this is for
abatement.
the new construction, right? I don't know the exact date, but we're getting very close to the end
And the
of
house
that
is a
program.
total loss,
Yeah.
so they'll have to
Correct.
build a new house,
Yeah.
so it's not
Yep.
just a remodel.
The one thing on this, there is a basement there, so, we've talked about, we gotta realize that was there prior to.
Right.
Right.
But she knows about the program, we've advised her that, and told her that she needs to, before construction starts,
Right.
she needs to bring that forward.
I'd like to keep the information out there a little bit, because we've had a couple people in the last 6 months that have not applied or were too late,
Right.
and it's.
And maybe
It's,
an article or something, I don't know,
It's something that,
yeah.
I know there was one in Edgerton recently that didn't get it, and there was another one, I forget, Tyler.
There's been a couple that they've broken ground beforehand.
Yeah, but they have to
And-
get, and when they get their building permit, they should be
Notified.
advised of that, but.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just something to think about.
And even with their contractors and their lumber suppliers, I'm surprised that word's not getting out to people, so.
Correct. Yeah, so.
So you've got a specific recommendation for us then?
Right. Well, I guess we would recommend, or we both approved it, we're seeking recommendation for the actual abatement estimate, the pre-disaster, the difference between pre and post was, for the entire year, was $1,612. After you prorate that down, it's gonna be roughly $537.48. It just kinda depends on how it's actually calculated in the system, but that's gonna be roughly $540. So we're looking for approval for the abatement of roughly $540 for the 2018 taxes.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the abatement of the 500 and how many dollars was it? 500?
Roughly $540.
Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Passes unanimously.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Then Tyler, you've got more information for us then as well on our fiscal year, our audit report?
And I do want to, so this is actually for the audit report. This is our first one through Eide Bailey. This is actually the end of last year. I know we're in December of this year. I will say that we didn't get this until the end of September. So the information was essentially out of date already at that point, so I didn't feel a huge rush to get it to you in front of you. This is just a required
annual meeting to go over the actual audit itself. I will start off by saying that we did have the normal unmodified opinion. We had a couple of small written findings. A lot of it just has to do with Ide Bailey being our new auditors and how they look at things. We had a couple small adjustments, no material adjustments or anything like that. Just a difference in opinion between the state auditors and Ide Bailey on where certain items should fall. So we didn't have any big findings or anything like that, just a couple written that I hope to have fall off next year. So I guess we'll go through the handouts. These are the same handouts that I usually had for the state auditor. I figured for a little continuity, just kind of go over the same items. So handout 1, and if you have any questions at any point, go ahead and just shoot them out. We'll kind of cover them. I'm just going to kind of go through these somewhat quick if you guys don't have any questions. So handout number 1, this is the total net position for the entire county, government-wide financial statements. It did go up 4.03%, which equates out to roughly $2.5 million increase. So we did see a rather large increase from 2016 to 2017. The largest reason for that, it's kind of a common theme throughout all this handouts, was for capital assets related to road and bridge. So it was mainly our infrastructure went up by almost $2 million. As I said, that's going to be a very common theme through this presentation. So if you go to handout number 2, you can see our capital assets, like as I indicated, went up 2.2. The vast majority of that, I would say roughly $2 million of the 2.2 million increase for road and bridge, or for capital assets, was accounted for in infrastructure. So we just had a lot of projects, a lot of federal grants. We just had a lot of road work getting done last year, or in 2017. All right, so there's handout 2. Next one, our long-term liabilities for the general governmental activities. So this doesn't account for the hospital debt. So this is strictly our compensated absences, our loans payable, and our net pension liability. As you can see, everything as usual, our loans payable, compensated absences did go down. The one thing that I do want to point out for this would be the net pension liability. You can see that decreased almost $3 million. The vast majority of that was the police and fire para fund, that they had better than expected returns. So our share of the debt for that portion of the para underfundment went down significantly. The other 2 plans, so that would have been the courthouse and the corrections, stayed relatively the same. So essentially all of that almost $3 million decrease was associated to the police and fire. So they. Yeah.
Just curious, do you know what the para rate of return was this last year?
Their actual rate of return? No, I do not. I know that the assumption, what was that? I haven't looked at this for quite a while, but.
Their assumption is 7.5.
Right. I don't know the actual. They don't tell me the actual. They just tell me, hey, this is what we actually saw. It might be in their newsletters that Steve gets, but I don't actually see anything on that as far as what their actual returns were. They don't.
Just know
We're not privy to that information.
Negative 0.1.
Correct.
Go pull one of those out when we get
Yep.
done here. I've got it in the folder back.
Right.
I'll go grab it and give you a copy of what we have.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, in 2015 to 2016, our net pension liability here at the county jumped $4.3 million. So a lot of it has to do with assumptions and actual returns. Obviously, this is all actuary estimates. And I will say the annual, I'd let everybody know that net pension liability, even though we show a $4.6 million liability, that's nothing that we're actually going to have to pay out at the county. It's just showing our share of the underfunded para account. So it's nothing that we're paying every month or anything like that. So, yep. All right, so the next handout, total revenues and expenditures. You can see that our revenues and expenditures both increased rather significantly over the last years. Again, this is essentially all related to the increase in federal grants that we received for road work. Obviously, the more funds you get, the more expenditures you're going to get when it comes to grants. So that's really all it was. So pretty common year for revenues and expenditures. It's just larger because we got more grant dollars. So handout next one, so the revenues.
You have a question as we move
Yes,
on?
yeah.
Ours is in color, so it's a little bit difficult to tell. So then on 2017 on the bar graph, then So the revenues is the one on the left, and the expenditures?
Correct,
is the one on the
yes. Sorry, yeah, that's didn't print off in color there. So, yeah, the revenues are on the left, expenditures are on the right. So we did receive more revenues than expenditures. I will say, a lot of that's just timing. It's just strictly timing thing. It's just money that we hadn't expended yet. We received the money, we just hadn't quite expended it yet. So, a lot of the, especially Road and Bridge, the year-end balances are strictly timing based, and they have a lot of value to them, but not nearly as much as the governmental funds.
Right.
Yep, so, all right. So the revenues for the governmental funds, you can kind of see they're all pretty common compared to prior years. The only large increase is the common theme was the intergovernmental, which increased almost $3 million, or $2.6 million. So, again, we'll see on the next handout that the vast majority of that was our federal grants increased. So I'm over onto the next page. Our federal grants went from 88,000 to 2.4 million. So that's very common theme. Highway, essentially all that came through highway, and we just had a lot of road work being done. So the intergovernmental revenues, you see our appropriations did go up slightly. A lot of that has to do with our gas tax went up a little bit, and our county program aid did go up from 16 to 17 as well. Our state grants was down, but obviously when your federal grants are increasing by 2.3 million, it's very easy absorption. So as you can see, where we were actually receiving our federal funds was through the U.S. Department of Transportation. So we increased from 61.5 to $2.38 million from 16 to 17 in federal grant dollars.
Okay.
Yep.
On handout number 5, then it shows the gifts and contributions, and that was up significantly. I assume a lot of that has to do with our upgrades at the fairgrounds.
That's essentially all it is.
Yep.
So that's, obviously, we're thinking a year in the past here. We were receiving all those donations for the beef barn during 2017.
But it certainly is worth pointing out, and again, thanking all of our contributors. This was a
Correct.
significant increase from before, and with the generosity of our people has been tremendous, so.
Yep.
Very much appreciated.
Yep. Very nice to point that out as well, so. Okay. I guess I don't really have a whole lot else to go over the intergovernmental revenue breakdown. I feel like I'm kind of beating a dead horse, but a lot of it was just federal grants for highway. That was the biggest decider of where we were sitting at, and our large swings in revenue compared to 16 to 17. Handout number 7, our expenditures. Again, our expenditures went up. As you can see, highways and streets went from $4 million in 2016 to 6.69 in 2017. All grant dollars. So we're expending a lot more, but it wasn't on the back of the taxpayers per se, because we were receiving federal grant dollars for all of the work that was being done, or for a vast majority of the work, I should say. And that's really all I really want to point out there. Obviously, there was small increases in expenditures for intergovernmental. That would have just strictly been our payouts to Health and Human Services. So their increase in 2017, that's what would have been reflected in that account. But beyond that, it falls rather close to in line to prior years. No questions on that. We'll go over to the major fund summary. I put this on here. Strictly, it's kind of an all-in-one shot of where we're sitting at the end of the year. The one thing that I do want to point out for this particular page, the unassigned account in the general fund, which is, these are dollars that you could go out and pay tomorrow for any unknown bills or anything like that. There's no assignments or anything to it. It's just money that's sitting that can be tapped into it. In 2016, we're at 3.43. And in 2017, we're at 3.1. So we did go down roughly 200,000 or 300,000, which is rather close to where we wanted, because in 2017, if you remember, we didn't want to see our funds go up or down. We kind of wanted to stay rather flat as far as our fund balance goes. And I feel that that's kind of where we were at. Obviously, it decreased slightly, but it was such a minuscule amount compared to the rest of the fund balance that we're essentially the same. So we did a very good job budgeting in 2017. So that's really all I have to show on that one. You can kind of look it over. If you have any questions, feel free. All the numbers on here were broken down in more detail on the handouts before. So Okay. Handout 9, this is kind of where we're getting to the recommended levels of fund balance. As you can see, the top just kind of goes for over unrestricted fund balance. The unrestricted fund balance, remember, is our unassigned fund balance plus any assignments that we have. So whether that's conservation, natural resources, or computer tech, all of those accounts, all the assignments, and our unassigned fund balances, those two added together are an unrestricted fund balance. So obviously the revenues are expenditures. As you might remember, recommended fund balance is 35 to 50% of revenues, or at least 5 months of expenditures. So if you actually run the math on the revenues, you want to have you can see the balances where they recommend in between there, and expenditures. And the same, the math that I ran, number of months the year-end fund balance can cover based on 2017 expenditures. You see the general fund is at 7.4, road and bridge is at 2.2, and family services at 8.1. So our general fund is still pretty good. Obviously, we're more of a conservative county. We want to see that more than 5 months. That's kind of been our prior goal. We like to see the 6 to 7. Just to make sure that we're sitting very healthy, and that's exactly where we're at. We actually went down slightly compared to last year. I will say Road and Bridge, as you can see, is underneath that. It's a hard fund. It swings high to low continuously. I mean, I've seen that one down to 2 in prior years, all the way up to 4 since I've been here. It just swings, and it's strictly because of timing. That's really all that is. It's not an unhealthy fund. It's just that's how it fell this year.
The norm parameters, though, with that.
Correct. Yes. I mean, it's kind of shocking when you look at it, but when you actually look at the breakdown of when we were getting our money and when we were expending the money, it's strictly just we had to cut off. You have to cut off at some point. So it made it look worse than it actually is. So. Okay, in family services, we have 8.1. That is strictly because we have that fund balance sitting in there, and that will go down significantly once we take down the school and everything, because that's where that funds are going to be coming from.
And again, that fund balance was monies that we had before we entered into joint powers. So that was
correct. That was the leftover amount in that fund that was above and beyond our buying amount that we had to pay in.
And that was our undesignated funds.
Well, technically, they're set aside for human services. If they were unassigned, they would be in the general fund. So technically, they are for human services because they're sitting there, but we can use it for however we want. So, I mean, technically, it's human services, but we can easily transfer it out of there if you wish. So we've used it as kind of a rainy day fund in the past, and I think that's what the board wants to do moving forward as well. So a month of expenditures and fund balance, the next handout here, you can see we went from 7.5 to 5.16. A vast majority of that, as you can see, obviously Road and Bridge went down significantly. They were at a little over 3 last year. They went down to 2.2. So a lot of that large increase is strictly associated to that because our general fund balance went from, I think it was right around that 7.5 to the 7.4. So it went down slightly in the general fund, but we're pretty much right on par with where we were at. It just, like I said, it looks worse because of the timing issues in the Road and Bridge Fund. Okay. Months of expenditures and fund balance. This just kind of goes, this is just the general fund to show the difference between when you factor in the Road and Bridge compared to the general fund, which is the fund that the major fund that the county board controls, excuse me, and all of the tax levy dollars and everything, so on and so forth, fall into that. So that's the one when you think of county government, it's going to be the general fund. So we did go down slightly from 7.58 months to 7.37 months. A lot of that is increase in costs or expenditures went up, so it's going to look like it's worse. But in the grand scheme of things, we're very healthy when we stayed right on par. So it's exactly what we wanted to do when we went into the budget year, was make sure that we didn't really have a decrease or an increase in our fund balance, and I feel like we accomplished that. So.
Though if you look at the graph going back to 2014, there certainly is a downward trend from 2014.
Correct, and we wanted to because I felt that we had too much in fund balance.
So this is intentional?
Yes, this was completely intentional, yes. I mean, we were, as you can see, in 2014, we almost had 9 months worth of expenditures, and that's getting to be a little excessive, if you ask me. I feel we want to be conservative, but we don't want to, I don't want to say hoard taxpayer dollars. We want to make sure that we're still spending it, but we want to have a cushion at the same time. So that was intentional. We're slowly dwindling that down instead of having it shock over one year, having a massive shock. We're just kind of gradually decreasing it to where it's a more
Do you have a target?
My personal target is roughly 6.5 to 7. They recommend 5 months. I feel as a county, in our case, especially when we don't have debt, we might have big swoons of expenditures from year to year. So I want to be a little more conservative than what is recommended by the state auditors. And that's actually a federal thing. They say 35 to 50%. So that's why I roughly want to be at 6.5 to 7. So we are still slightly over. So if we do keep going down by a couple $100,000 here or there, that's kind of what I'm planning on. So it's nice to have that little built-in cushion in case for all the unknown expenditures that do pop up every year. So, all right. And then lastly is the fund balance for the governmental funds breakdown. Again, here you can see from 2016 to 2017, our non-spendable decreased rather significantly. That is mainly attributed to the inventories out at the highway. They saw a large decrease in their inventories from 16 to 17, and that was strictly just a timing. They just hadn't gotten their inventories like they had in the past. So a restricted fund balance obviously largely went up 2.6, and again, that was federal dollars for road and bridge, so that's money that we got from an outside source that's being waiting to be spent. Our assigned balance did go down almost $1 million, and our unassigned balance went down slightly. But when you factor in the large restriction increase, it did increase our actual fund balance by almost $500,000 in total. So our assignments did go down, which is, for a couple of those accounts, we just essentially, money that we've been putting aside the last couple of years, we just ended up spending it. So it was a plan to decrease that again. And in our unassigned, I thought that we did very well, only having that decrease a couple $100,000. So that if we can have that fluctuate roughly around the same, where you're only decreasing a couple hundred or increasing a couple hundred, where you're just kind of bouncing back and forth, that's kind of what we want to have. So I think that's completely fine, and it's in the norm. So our fund balance did increase rather significantly. But so overall, in the grand scheme of things, the county is very healthy. We're on par this year to have the same thing. In 2018, the preliminary work that I've done, it looks like our budget is going to be falling in line with what we projected. So I think the handouts that I hand out next year audit are going to be very similar to what they are this year. So if you don't have any questions.
The audit report then from E. Bailey, unqualified, I. Bailey, excuse me. Was
Yes,
unqualified.
unmodified. Unmodified. So it's the best audit you can get. They were very thrilled with our work. They liked the way our account structure was. It was very organized. Obviously, you have a little communication issues the first year. There's a lot of getting to know each other going on that first year, and that's also why it took so long. They had a couple extra layers of approval since we were a first-year audit. I will say if we wouldn't have had that first-year audit, we probably would have had this back to us in probably June or July instead of September. But they just had that extra work, and they had a little delay. So I thought overall, everybody in the county liked Ide Bailey. They liked the audit crew. They were very knowledgeable. They didn't feel like we were training anyone. I thought that it was a very thorough audit. They were here for much longer than the state auditors ever were, going through all of our accounts, asking questions that were not previously asked. So we thought that was actually a much better audit than was being provided for $20,000 less. So we were very happy with Ide Bailey, especially moving forward. We will look forward to better understand them and get to know them a little bit more so that we can get the extra little wrinkles in the actual audit itself out. So, yep.
Gentlemen, any other questions? Anybody?
Thank you, Tyler.
I appreciate it.
All right. Well,
You need to take action on this report as well, too.
Nope.
So
no, you do not. They strictly just have to present it to you.
okay.
Yep.
You mentioned as far as going forward as well, too. Again,
Yes.
with Steve's retirement, you're going to have big shoes to fill. And
Yes.
As we go forward, we're certainly looking forward to a smooth transition.
Exactly. No, Steve worked here great. I want to thank him for everything that he's done to assist with the transition as far as cross-training and helping me and just getting all the stuff with the banks and everything, having conversations with the banks, so on and so forth, so that we can kind of as Dan indicated, have a very smooth transition between Steve and I, just trying to build those relationships up. So he has helped quite a bit, and it's been a very smooth transition so far. And just want
He's
to.
got some very, very experienced people in his office.
Exactly.
I'm sure can help with this as
Yep.
well, too, as you merge these two offices together.
Correct. I don't expect any drop in service or anything. It's going to be very smooth. I don't think the public's really going to notice anything changes really whatsoever. So,
Anything that we can do to help you as far as training, anything like that going forward, certainly don't
Nope.
hesitate to ask.
Yep. Oh, yeah, I definitely will. I know obviously we have a lot of training stuff built into the budget already, but I will say the majority of the training will be with myself, and I don't think the staff is going to need a ton of extra training. It's mainly just making sure they have everything in line. So I think it's going to be very smooth, very easy. We'll be able to handle it moving forward. So, okay.
Very good. Thank you, Tyler.
Yep. Have a good day.
And also, I see that Demaine Sandy, our county attorney, was able to join us. You can sit up here if you want, Demaine, or you can stay back there. Thank you for, apparently you got out of court. That's a good thing. Okay, Nick, you've got a highway bid for us for fuel bid opening, is that correct?
Morning. Hope you all had a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
In the past, I'll give you a little background here. In the past, we've bid out fuel for the year. Been running into some problems with that lately. Apparently suppliers can't lock their prices down for a full year. So this bid is just for 6 months because we have some people that would be willing to lock it down for 6 months. So figure we'll give it a shot at that.
And our storage capacity now is how many months?
10,000.
How many months will 10,000 gallons take us?
3-ish.
Okay.
It varies 2 to 3.
2 to 3.
Okay. Did you all get bid tabs?
Yes.
You did? Okay. Okay. Demaine, did you get one too?
Yes.
Okay. So this bid is for 17,000 gallons of gasoline in Pipestone. How we came up with that number is that's 2 tanker loads. It's also 15,000 gallons of diesel in Pipestone. And that is 2 tanker loads of diesel. The difference in that is the weight of the fuel. They can only haul so much weight on their truck, so that's why it's 2,000 gallons off. And then it's also for 10,000 gallons of diesel in our outlying shops. That being said, we received 2 bids. One from Chandler Co-op, one from BioAg, both local. So we'll start with the BioAg bid. All right, the BioAg bid for gasoline on the 10% ethanol is $1.81.8. So $1.818 per gallon. And the margin is $0.3987 per gallon, so 39.87 cents per gallon.
And explain to us again exactly how the margin works.
The margin is if we go over the contract quantity and we need to order more. That margin is, they have to show us what they pay for it. And then that's, they get to tack that much on for profit and
Of their cost.
delivery. And
So the margin's got nothing to do with the 1.818.
it hasn't, To my knowledge, it hasn't come into effect yet. We've, well, yes, I guess it would have, but, you know, we're usually pretty close on the base bid quantity, so.
Depending on what the price of fuel is in June, it might make a difference.
Right, yeah.
But the margin, the .3987, that's on top of their cost. It's got nothing
Yeah.
to do with the bid price of the 1.818.
That is correct. So if we use up all of our bid quantity, and we need to order more, we get it for their cost plus that, .3987 per gallon, so.
Thank you.
They also bid on diesel fuel. Maybe I should specify, we put in here that gasoline can be awarded independent of diesel. Not everybody bids on both of them, so. They did bid on diesel. The B5 price for the Pipestone location is $1.926 per gallon. $1.926 per gallon. The B20 for the Pipestone shop location is $2.019 per gallon. 2.019. The B5 for the Ruthven, Edgerton, Island, and Holland shops, that would be $2.076 per gallon. 2.076. And B20 for Ruthven, Edgerton, Island, and Holland is $2.169 per gallon. 2.169.
Nick, B5 or B20, is that number 1 or number 2? Is that the difference there, or what?
No, that's how much of the bio product is in there. Certain times a year.
Soybeans or whatever they shove in there.
Right, yep, certain times a year.
You don't want that in the middle of the winter, do you?
Correct. Yep, but I think if you order after May 1st, you have to get the B20, something like that. There's something with that window, so that's why we specified them differently. Also, if we go with number 1 instead of number 2, that might.
More.
Yeah, yeah, and it says right in the bid packet that that we'll pay extra for that. So the margin for the Pipestone shop on the diesel is $0.1483 per gallon. $0.1483 per gallon. Then the margin on the outlying shops in Ruthven, Edgerton, Island, and Holland is $0.2983 per gallon. 0.2983. Okay. Right. He had some other notes, but I don't think that'll affect what we're doing here, so. The next and final bid is from Chandler Co-op. Okay. For gasoline, Chandler Co-op's bid is $1.785 per gallon. 1.785. And their margin is $0.12 per gallon. 0.12. Chandler Co-op also bid on diesel fuel. Their bid on B5 is $1.965 per gallon. 1.965. Their bid on B20 for the Pipestone shop is $2.015 per gallon. 2.015. Their bid on B5 for Ruthven, Edgerton, Island, and Holland is $2.115 per gallon. 2.115. B20 in Ruthven, Edgerton, Island, and Holland is $2.165 per gallon. 2.165. And their margin for the Pipestone shop is $0.12 per gallon. 0.12. And for the Ruthven, Edgerton, Island, and Holland shops, it is $0.22 per gallon. 0.22. So would it be all right if we take a little break to review these prices?
I think that'd be appropriate as well too, but before I do that also, just make sure that the bids, everything is copacetic on the bids.
That's fine. I'll look at it.
Very good. Okay. We've got 10:43. We'll take a short recess so we can do the math on these and see how they compare between the two different bidders. Very good. Welcome back from our short recess. It is now 10:50. Nick, you've had a chance to go ahead and do the math and calculate these various bids. Do you have a specific recommendation for us?
Yes, I do. And the reason I wanted the recess was because if you look at the numbers, you'll see that one of the bidders was cheaper on one type of diesel. BioAg was cheaper on B5, but Chandler Co-op was cheaper on B20. The B20 is very, very close. The B5 BioAg was had a little bit bigger margin in their favor there. Then also we'd probably try to get the B5 in if we had room in the tank. So I think that's even more reason to go with that. So I would recommend ordering the diesel fuel to BioAg and the gasoline to Chandler Co-op.
So BioAg for the diesel, so that would be the B5 and the B20,
Correct.
both for the Pipestone shop and for the outlying shops?
That is correct.
And again, that was acceptable to the bidders to be able to pick and choose?
Yes, it's
the gas
in bold.
and the diesel?
It's in bold print right on the bid form.
Okay.
For example, on the gasoline one, it says, note, gasoline may be awarded to low bidder independent of the diesel low bid.
Okay.
I'd move to approve Nick's
Recommendation?
recommendation, yes.
Okay. Been moved and seconded to approve Nick's recommendation of accepting the BioAg bid for the diesel fuel, both for the Pipestone shop and the outlying shops. And the dollar amounts that got on those again, the B5 was 1.926 and the B20 was 2.019 with the margin of 0.1483. Is that correct, Nick?
That is correct.
Okay. And that was for the Pipestone shop. The outlying shop then is the 2 point, for the B5 is the 2.076, and the B20 for the outline shop was 2.169 with the margin of 0.0983. Is that correct?
0.2983 is what I have written down.
0.2983, yes. My penmanship. 0.2983. Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion or questions? Okay. And that's acceptable with the main?
Everything that Nick has there is good.
Okay, very good.
Pretty simple.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
And opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Moving on to the gasoline then, Nick.
Yes, the gasoline, I'd recommend awarding to Chandler Co-op.
I was thinking I included both in the motion, but
Oh.
doesn't make any difference.
Sorry, I maybe misheard that.
Okay,
I'll move to approve that then too.
Okay.
okay. Okay, and the Chandler price then for the 10% ethanol was the 1.785 with the margin of .12.
Correct.
Okay, any further discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And opposed, the same, passed unanimously. Great. Thank you, Nick, and thank you for the bidders as well, too. Appreciate that. I realize that, you know, we're talking two tankers full. It's a lot of work for them to go through the bidding process and to be that close. So again, I appreciate their willingness also to be able to separate out the gasoline from the diesel bids. That's very cooperative of them.
And then I have a quick update on our Lake Benton 2 project. Had a conference call with them, I think Thursday, I believe. It sounds like they've hired the same engineering firm to come up to draft their development agreements, which I'm very excited about because it sounds like it's going to be pretty much direct copy of the Stoneway agreement, which I spent a lot of time reviewing. So
They did a good job with the roads and repairing them. and
yeah,
fixing them.
I'm really happy with it. I kept trying to mention how well that went, trying to suggest that they copy that as best they can. So they're going to try to do just one development agreement, but it's possible they may be forced into doing two through something on their end. One would be for the decommissioning phase, and then one would be for the repower. But I told them we would prefer one, you know, just that much
Are
less.
they all in Pipestone County or some of that in Lincoln?
I don't know. I guess we were only talking about
Concerned with Pipestone.
what applied to us, yeah. So I didn't ask about anywhere else, so. But it sounds like they would like to try to have some type of meeting on January 17th at the Highway Department. Be similar to what they did for the Stoneway project. That invite will be coming out in the near future. You'll see it, so I just wanted to give you a little heads up now as far as what's going on with it.
Nick, what was the name of that company again that did ours for Stone Ray? That was the-
EDF, I believe.
Correct.
EDF did the
Yeah,
road use
Res-
agreement, that's right, yeah.
RES is the contractor.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is a Nextera project, and I don't know if they've awarded it yet to a contractor. But either way, you'll be getting an invite for January 17th.
I've got a conflict with that date. That's fine.
Okay.
Do you have any kind of an update at all on Stone Ray? Maybe we should have EDF come in and give us an update to see where we're at.
Oh, we had one in November with them.
Yeah.
And I did get a letter from them, and I put that all in your boxes stating that they were, you know, winter had virtually stopped most of what was going on. They were going to be finishing in the spring.
Oh, okay.
I remember, board members remember that at all? I put that in there.
Yep.
But if you'd like to have Vince come back again, we can certainly get him back. It's up to you.
I have no point in it. He's communicated with us. So do we know what percentage of completion they've got, or?
He also stopped in my office last week. Said pretty much the same thing, that they're kind of stuck with winter. They'll be back in the spring to finish cleaning things up. I told him, I said, you know, that's probably better off just waiting till after road postings. I said the only real conflict I see is that if there's an intersection radius that's filled in too much, causing some drainage issues, I said you might have to come in and try to make something happen to clean that up.
How about the machines themselves? Do you know how many of those are actually in operation at this point, or?
I was led to believe by him that, well, he's under the understanding that everything's wired up and ready to go, but the contractor that kind of needs to flip the switch, so to speak, is on break for Christmas. So it sounded like it'd be in the next couple weeks or something. They were
They'll
going
be
to.
coming online?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So
Good.
real soon for that. You know, when Vince was in, he asked if we had any issues that needed to be resolved. So, I mean, he's very cooperative, and just a couple little things, so.
It's hard to predict the weather.
Absolutely.
These kind of issues, so it's just a matter of, it is what it is.
Yep.
It's done, it'll be done, so.
Then, I guess I have one more little note here on that Nextera project. I asked them about when they wanted to start, and they want to start right after road postings, and they hope to be finished by the end of 2019. I also encourage them that if it's possible, if they get things far enough ahead, maybe start hauling some things before road postings, and the roads are still frozen, and they're going to do that if it works, so.
Very good.
So,
Thank you, Nick.
yeah, that's all I have. Anybody have any questions for me?
Questions at all for Nick? Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I'd add to that is Kyle Creer advised me you'll be having January 8th Planning Commission Board action on the laydown yard in the OEM building for this project for the next era. So you'll have more action coming up in January on that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on with our agenda then, get into our other business. We added the discussion about the per diem. So would you have something to present on that?
Mr. Chairman, the 2018 per diem rate was set at $100 per meeting. No other fees were added to that. You approved that back in 2018. We did not take action on that at the salary setting meeting, which was my error. I had it on the agenda and I didn't get it on there, so I apologize for that. So it would be appropriate this time to go ahead and set this per diem rate for 2019.
Okay, open it up for discussion or for?
Move to keep the rate the same.
Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded to keep our per diem rate at $100 per day. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. And opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Okay. Then also, we need to address the mileage reimbursement. I understand that the IRS has changed the allowance.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, board members, I added a copy of the IRS change for 2019. I was watching that all of December when that would come through. Currently, we're at 54.5. The IRS has changed it to 58 cents per mile, up 3.5 cents from the rate of 2018. Please don't ask me why they did that, because I cannot answer that question. But past practices, the county would follow the IRS rate. So a recommendation would be to set the mileage rate for 58 cents per mile for 2019.
Okay. Acting on Steve's recommendation, I'd entertain a motion to set the per diem rate.
Mileage rate, Mr. Chairman.
Mileage rate, excuse me.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay, yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay, moving second to set it at 58 cents per mile. Any further discussion or questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, aye. And opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Okay. Any other personnel items?
Personnel would be next.
Okay, Kathy?
Morning.
Good morning.
I have a few things to present to the board this morning for personnel items. The first item I have is a resignation, and that is from Lyle Skibout. He has resigned from the Highway Department effective February 28th, 2019. And I do have a separation agreement that goes along with that, but we'll probably take that in two separate motions if we could do that. So first, I would need the board approval to accept his resignation.
I'd move to accept his resignation.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the resignation of Lyle Skibod effective February 28th, 2019.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any further discussion or questions? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. And opposed, the same. Passes unanimously.
Okay, and then the next item I have is the separation agreement that goes along with Lyle's resignation. He's currently on a leave of absence, so he would be able to use his accrued sick leave followed by his vacation through the end of February. And, you know, there's a lot of legal language in here, and this was reviewed by a labor attorney as well, and the Highway Department. Nick Bergman is aware of this too. So the Personnel Committee went through it and went through the discussions with this, and Les and Bruce, I think, were okay with it as well. So Lyle signed it on the 19th, and I would be seeking full board approval of the separation agreement.
Okay, very good. We need to take action on that then, so. For approval. Been moved and seconded to approve the separation agreement. Okay, any further discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
And opposed, the same. That passes unanimously as well.
Thank you. Along with Lyle's resignation, we are going to start advertising right away to fill a highway maintenance worker position. So we will be advertising for that. I have another request from the highway department for advertising for part-time temporary highway maintenance workers. It's up to you guys if you want to approve that or not. I think they would appreciate that if we can find somebody. We don't know who's exactly out there for that.
Mr. Chair, is that another summertime position? Or?
This would be a winter position. Yep, so it would be, we probably wouldn't get them on board probably till February or so, so they'd probably only be able to help for 2 to 3 months, but.
Are the maintenance department there?
Yeah, it would be like motor grader operator, truck driver, equipment operator position, so.
Wish we would have had Nick stay. Questions on this?
Primarily for storm coverage, or?
Yes. So basically, this would be, all the highway, our full-time staff would be called first. We do have one temporary employee that is on our payroll that we bring back every year if we need him, Sean Johnson. So he is on the list this year too. So this would be actually probably after our full-time people. If Sean's not available, it would be just another on-call staff person.
Looking for this as long as winter's here, pretty much, or?
Correct.
Good.
How many, as a temporary employee then, is there a limit on the number of hours per week they can put in?
So it can be either one of two ways. You can have them work up to full-time for 67 working days, or you can have them working year-round, but under 14 hours per week.
Okay. Benefits?
No. Nope. So this would not be benefits eligible, including PERA. They would not be in PERA. The recommendation would be to pay them at step A of the 2019 pay scale for that position. So just the very first step of that pay scale.
Be nice for some farmer, somebody that works construction in the summer and has the ability and the license to do something like this for need months, but.
What's the history on this in the past? I don't recall. How many part-times have we had on the payroll?
Basically just this Sean, who, occasionally helps us. He hasn't helped us the last 2 years, I don't believe.
I don't think they're there every day, they're just as needed.
Correct. It'd be completely on call. I don't see it being a large cost. It's just the matter of taking the time and the effort to try to find someone more than anything.
I think we'll probably be looking for something like that this summer too, to help Wayne, maybe this coming summer.
It's just a case where if you need somebody, at least there's somebody to call that's qualified.
Right.
It's just, they're short this position, Lyle's position, and then we
I don't know
have.
if you're gonna get any applicants for the full-time one either. So if you.
Right, we were thinking we could advertise kind of for them at the same time if the board was okay with that.
Because of the
too.
immediate need, there could very well be somebody out there that's not interested in the full-time position,
Correct.
but they might be interested in this part-time position.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
understand now. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, both Nick and Doug are on board with this. They both were
Recommend
very
this.
adamant that this is necessary to do, and we had a good meeting with them
You
last
need
week.
a
on
motion
this.
for this to move forward? Or is it
Yes,
just-
and I think their request was for up to 2 people, so I guess if you guys are okay with that.
Applicants you get,
Right.
You don't know what you're gonna.
And again, it doesn't obligate us to any cost other than if we need somebody, we bring them in for those hours. So the only actual cost for doing this is gonna be your time and labor of researching, finding somebody and getting them on board through the HR process, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the ad and so forth, so, okay.
I'd move to approve up to 2 positions, temporary.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve Kathy and HR to go ahead and advertise and bring on 2 possible part-time workers, specifically for Highway Department.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, as highway maintenance workers, they will be required to have a CDL too, so.
Any further questions or discussions? These individuals will have to go through the same hiring process any other employee will, as far as background check and so forth and so on, and
Yes.
and all of that, so.
Yep.
Okay. Hearing no other discussions, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
And opposed, the same. Passes unanimously.
Okay. Okay, and then I do have one other announcement. We did find a candidate for the jailer dispatcher position, our additional jailer dispatcher position. And that is Kelsey Seiler. And she is going to start on January 2nd.
Okay. Good. Very good. That's for information. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you for your hard work.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, any other personnel items before we move forward?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, our upcoming meetings we've got scheduled in, our January 1st board meeting, of course, falling on the holidays, but the Tuesday has been postponed then to the following day, January 2nd. And that again will be here in these, in the Commissioners' room at 9 o'clock. Also, the following meeting then, the January 8th meeting, would be our organizational board meeting, and that's at 9 o'clock too. Minnesota Hospital Association, that's not until later, so that does not in this next period, so I think we're good there.
Weekend of the 11th, 12th.
Of the 11th. Okay, very good.
Mr. Chairman, how many, let's see, AMC Legislative Conference, Luke, I know you're going, Chris going, Dan, you going?
Yes,
Okay, Bruce?
Where is it?
It's at St. Paul in February,
the downtown.
the downtown one for legislative. And, okay, 3, I haven't heard back from Les yet, so I'll get in contact with them so I can make reservations and registrations. Great, thank you.
Any other discussion or business to bring before the Commissioners?
To adjourn.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously.